Welcome to the Vibe Within podcast. I'm your host, Gab Cohen. Each week, we will connect through stories and conversations about wellness, yoga, addictions, spirituality, mental health, rituals, and everything in between. The goal is to transform our traumas into strengths to create the change we desire in our lives. My mission is to help others by shining awareness on real-life topics so we can learn new ways to heal physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Whatever you are going through in this moment, you are not alone, so let's connect and heal our vibe within.
Up in my own head, trying to face all my fears. Reaching to my soul from where you belong. Are you still with him? I don't wanna know. Reaching to my soul from where you belong. Are you still with him?
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Vibe Within podcast. I'm your host, Gab Cohen. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your energy. I hope you are having a great morning, afternoon, or a nice little nightcap to end your day. Maybe you are indulging in some rituals like some tea or CBD. Whenever I record a podcast, I'm usually smoking a CBD joint, sipping on some tea. Maybe I'll take some tincture. It's a vibe. So I'll make this intro as short as I can. I'm just going to let you guys know what this episode is about. Basically, I get really deep into the epiphanies that I had over my birthday, 12/12, when I was in Miami. The 12/12 energy portal has a lot to do with health and health downloads and healing from the ground up. I talk about being honest and truthful with ourselves when it comes to burnout and understanding what areas of our life is depleting us of energy. And as you guys know, I get really deep in these episodes, so this is just a little foreshadowing just to let you know the topics. But I talk about burnout, rest, reflect, repeat, the cycles that we find ourselves in, understanding that a lot of us are already doing the things when it has to do with eating healthy, eating well, and movement. And I talk more in depth about energetically healing and understanding what is sucking our energy out, whether it's our relationships, our home life, and how important our physical health is when it comes to being able to up level in different areas of our lives and being able to heal trauma and do this shadow work is going to be more enjoyable and more beneficial when our health is doing well at the same time. I talk about depression, anxiety. I talk about the phases and the cycles that we went through in college or during times of our life that we didn't take good care of ourselves. I talk about sexual trauma, emotional health, slowing down, fight or flight mode. I talk about hypochondriac vibes. I get really deep in here, and I think that it will resonate with everyone in one way or another. So I hope you're enjoying this new year, and you're feeling the energy shifts, and you are reclaiming your truths and your desires and your needs, and you are getting your health and your wellness really dialed in, and you are fucking making moves. All right? Enjoy the episode. This episode is brought to you by my friends over at Fusion CBD. You guys already know how much CBD has helped my life, from physical healing to emotional healing to mental healing. It even helped me get through one of the most challenging and painful times of my life when I broke my arm and crushed my wrist. Yes, CBD has the capability of helping us through some of the most painful times of our lives. So if you're tired of taking prescription drugs, I definitely know how that feels. I am not on any antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications anymore because I use CBD. There are solutions that work, like natural CBD, which comes from hemp plants. So Fusion CBD is a company that I really love. They have amazing tinctures, and tinctures are one of my favorite types of CBD to use. It's easy. You can bring it with you anywhere. It comes in a liquid form. You put it under your tongue. It's potent and it is fast working. So Fusion CBD offers no questions asked quality guarantee to make it easy, and they even have a 500 milligram trial size tincture for $35. It's easy online ordering at fusioncbd.com. They have full spectrum tinctures, salves, which are topicals you put on your body, and they have edibles as well. So all of these products are different forms of CBD, so you can always choose your favorite kind. All of these tinctures and salves and edibles are born from little baby hemp seeds, and they grow up to be big, beautiful, stinky hemp plants. Then Fusion CBD harvests them, processes them, and they even lab test all of their oils for quality and potency. So every step of the process is done right here in America. So support local farmers. Fusion CBD is a collective of farmers working together to provide customers with the highest quality, full spectrum CBD on the market. They use conscious farming practices and pesticide-free growing methods. All of their products start from hemp seeds that are grown in their greenhouse system, which provides total control during the entire grow cycle, from seed to sale. I really love taking their tinctures before I meditate. CBD and meditation just go hand in hand. I also love taking CBD before taking a yoga class or using the sauna or being creative, like reading or writing. It really helps me unlock some kind of creative flow in my mind, especially when I am being active. And that's one thing that CBD, it's a bad rep for. Oh, it's going to make me tired. Totally not true. CBD has the capability of actually awakening our system and revitalizing our energy and giving us a kind of clear way of thinking with whatever we're doing, with whatever's in front of us. So whether you are at work or you're doing a project or you're out running errands, CBD can just help you enhance your day. So you can visit fusioncbd.com, that's fusioncbd.com, and you can use discount code GYPSYLOVE for 10% off of your first order. As well as if you spend $100 or more, you get free shipping, and you can choose a free hemp soap or mints at checkout. So you can also follow them on Instagram, Fusion CBD. Check them out, and don't forget to use discount code GYPSYLOVE for 10% off your first order. That's fusioncbd.com. Use GYPSYLOVE for 10% off your first order. All right, so here we are. I'm not quite sure when I'm going to actually launch this episode, so I'm going to try and stay non-time specific. But I will say that we have been going through a huge portal and a huge shift, and the 12/12 portal is when it started, for me at least. That was my birthday, and 12/12, that date all the way up until December 21st. So I'm not sure if when you're listening to this, but those 12 days were a very energetically charged time. So it's very normal and natural to feel energetic pulls towards, some deep ideas. It's also a very it was a very intense and maybe perhaps triggering time because the holidays and everything like that. What I've noticed is during this winter kind of, shift in energy, a lot of hibernation, not just because it's cold, but because I feel this strong desire to hibernate and figure shit out and hash shit out. So, meditation does this as well. And the other night I went to my support group meeting and it was great, but it just felt like the meditation itself was like my shadow and my light and my ego were all just at war with each other. And it's a lot of hashing of shit out. It's a lot of inner arguments and a lot of inner fights, a lot of that. And it can feel intense. So this portal of new growth, evolving energy. I know that you guys all feel it because if you're tuning into this podcast, you're probably super into all of this energetic release and trauma work and really being in tune with what's working and what's not in our life. And that's what this portal is about. I think it was a very rude and truthful and earth-shattering awakening that we might have felt, and a lot of inner knowing that we don't want to admit, because once we admit the things that that aren't going so well, then it's hard to just see it, watch, and fold out in front of you, because you've already made the commitment to to say to yourself, listen, these are the things that are not working anymore. So once you make that acknowledgement, it's hard to go back. It's kind of like living with a roommate that you don't like. Once things have been said or things have been done, you just don't like their energy. It's kind of hard to go back to day one where you didn't know anything about them. You were giving them the benefit of the doubt. It's the same thing that goes with awareness of our own habits and our own cycles. Once the awareness is there, it's hard to just put the blindfold back on and say, oh, I'm just going to forget it. I'm just going to forget about it, like whatever. So that's a huge part of awakening, and it's a huge part of putting basic needs first and understanding what we need from the ground up. So healing the root chakra from the ground up. That's a lot of what I felt during this time. And I know that I'm not the only one, because I tune into a lot of other podcasts. I think that it's a collective energy right now that we're all feeling, of this really strong urge to just purge the habits that are really holding us back. There's still residue. There's still a lot of residue happening, and we're all doing the work, and we're all doing the reprogramming, and we're all trying to step out of the labels and the ideas that we were grown up with, that our parents, our grandparents, our siblings have been growing up with. And it's hard to detach, but we have to kind of like continue to do this last little hurdle and really push through, because discomfort leads to growth, and not everything is going to be comfortable. And if we can get comfortable with doing things that challenge us and put us in a really like challenged state of mind, but we get through it, like that is growth, and that's going to help us get stronger. So to move on into this episode, burnout is obviously a huge buzzword right now that we can all, say that we've heard, and we definitely know what it means, but I want to get into it a little bit, because the cycle that I've found myself in recently is quite exhausting, to be honest. And it's burnout, crash, recharge, rest, reflect, work on those traumas, burnout again. There's not enough grounding. And when there's not enough grounding, we're in a constant fight or flight mode. And what fight or flight mode means is that our hormones and our internal energy is always in a state of ready to get fucked up, ready to be abandoned, ready to have to run, ready to have to fight, ready to have to, move quickly and fly. And it's a very fuzzy and I want to say vibrating, but not vibrating. It just feels like I've been in fight or flight for an entire year, to be honest. And because this time last year I was preparing to move out of my house. I was in Miami. I had been in that house for 3 years. There were so many memories in it. I was cleaning it up, packing it up. I also birthed this podcast at the same time. So it was a very healing and expanding time of my life. But ever since that move out of the house, I've been in fight or flight because I haven't felt completely comfortable with where I'm at home-wise. And that has to do with the root chakra. So if you're not quite sure, what I'm talking about, or maybe you're new to the podcast, I have been through several transitions this year. If you're interested in listening to my recent, moves and transitions, the last 10 episodes, I really get into it. And if you haven't listened to the first part of the Magical Darkness of Awakening, I get into that. I've been becoming more vulnerable with you guys, and it feels good because I get a lot of DMs and I love the voice messages too. Like, I've been receiving a lot of audio voice messages from you guys, and that's what's up. I love that. That's really cool. But to get back into the burnout thing, we have to ask ourselves, like, if we're burnt out, we know it. We definitely know it. And we have to ask ourselves if our current reality is benefiting our health or if we are just doing it because we're stuck. The hustle, the errands, the home life, work life, physical well-being, relationships. I had to ask myself, what's making me drag? Like, is it the energy around me? And we have to ask ourselves these questions, because if we don't, then we're not going to drop in and be like, okay, what the fuck is my problem right now? Like, why am I feeling so angry? Why am I feeling so depressed? Like, nobody else is going to help us get out of it except for ourselves at the end of the day, because we know what's going on. And as much as I've been craving, finding that perfect therapist or finding that perfect health coach or that perfect, spiritual teacher, like I am craving that. And I really do think that I'm ready in this time in my life for that kind of mentorship. But at the end of the day, we are the ones living our lives, and we are the ones who know what's ticking us off, what's not working, who's not working, and we have to be honest with ourselves. So, is it the people around us? We need to wake up to what it is that's tampering with the quality of our life. So if getting out of bed in the morning is a drag, if our physical bodies are suffering with inflammation and pain and trauma, it's deeper than just the food that we eat. Because, a lot of you guys, and I know I can speak for myself, but a lot of you guys too, you're already into health and wellness. You eat good. You eat healthy. Maybe you're vegan. Maybe you're vegetarian. Maybe you are eating Ayurvedically. A lot of these podcasts that we all tune into are about health and wellness and energetically healing. So a lot of us already are doing the food and the movement part. And what I've been realizing is like, okay, cool, I got that part down. The food, the elixirs, the superfoods, the powders, the movement, all that. I got that down to a science, but there's something else lacking in my healing regime. And I think it really is an energetic, spiritual healing, because the physical and the spiritual and the mental are all connected. But I think that I'm not putting enough work into the energetic healing modalities, like getting a therapist and, going to more support groups, or going to a Reiki session, or getting a massage. So we have to really pinpoint what it is that our personal healing, regime is lacking. And I think, we can get so caught up in our routines and our rituals and think that we're doing all the right things because those are the things that we're told to do. But in reality, it's the things that we aren't doing are the things that, like, I don't know how to explain this without sounding like a stoner, but the things that we know that we should do, but we're just putting it on a to-do list. Like, for me, I've had on a self-care to-do list, get a massage for the past 3 months, and I still haven't gotten a massage. Now, I ask myself, why? I love massages. I've been working hard and I have money. Why don't I go get a massage? It's a lot deeper than what I think, because I know that there is, like, physically trapped energy in my body that has to do with trauma. And subconsciously, I think that I know a massage might make me feel worse a little bit after. There's been massages where I feel drained, I cry, I got sick, Massages can do that because they're literally forcing toxins out of the body. And I remember one time when I got a massage, I didn't drink enough water after, and I really did get sick. It was really intense because I didn't hydrate, I didn't nourish, I didn't let all of that flow out. So as much as I love massages, my subconscious mind is not doing it. So we have to be honest and truthful with ourselves. Like, what is it that you have put on your self-care list that you haven't gotten around to? Is it getting a therapist? Is it, going and shopping for a few things that you really, really need, but your ego and your subconscious mind is saying, oh no, you don't need that. Like, you need to save money or whatever. Because I know I get like that too. There'll be things that I want to buy, like, vegan snacks that aren't like that healthy, but whatever, like, I really want them. And a voice in my mind will be like, no, you don't need that shit. And it's like, whoa, like, where did that voice come from? You know what I mean? Like, where did that mean, haggling voice come from saying that I don't deserve some healthy vegan snacks or whatever? So it's like, it's awakening to those little dark voices that maybe we just, we went months or years without really realizing it. But when we can really drop into the inner dialogue that we are having, we can sometimes separate ourselves from that bully and be like, whoa, that's not me. I wouldn't want to hang out with somebody who is a bully like that. So I don't like that version of me. So we don't have to identify with that bully version of ourselves. We can disconnect and say, I don't know where that voice came from. I don't know where the seed was planted, but I'm going to disconnect myself from that part of me so that I can create a more safe mental environment for myself. And it takes, again, being present and being with that negative, judgmental, haggling, dark bully thought. When it comes through, it's seeing it and saying, you're not welcome here, and I'm going to disconnect from that because I don't even know where it came from. So getting back to healing, we're already doing the food thing. We're already eating well. We're already we have our movement practice. We are working out, whatever. So we're like acknowledging the fact that it's deeper than that. And It's the energy that resides in our mind and around us that's affecting us. It's our surroundings. It's the environment. So sometimes we don't want to admit it, but once we establish the problem, it's hard to continue living with it. So what I've been really focusing my energy on and my practices on, and really shifting my intentions all around, is health. Like, I had a lot of downloads happen to me over my birthday, and it was all about health, and it was all about how the burnout is the clear-cut sign that maybe the life I'm living right now and my current reality right now isn't nourishing my health. You know, even though I'm eating healthy, even though I'm stepping away from disordered eating habits, even though I haven't touched alcohol or a drug in over like 8 months, even though I'm trying to get better sleep, even though, you know, all these things, there's still something that's not quite right. And my depression has been really crazy and up and down, and my health has been up and down as well. Like, one week I'll feel amazing, the next week I will have every symptom imaginable. But I will say, if you've been following my thyroid journey and everything that I've been speaking about weaning myself off of medication, I am fully off of thyroid medication. I have been for a few months. Yeah, I want to say a few months, maybe 2 months. But I feel much, much better now that I'm off of it. And it was rough in the beginning. It was definitely rough, but I logged everything, and I'm really happy that I got through it. And I'm really proud of myself that I did it, because if you're suffering with thyroid or autoimmune, I'm sure you've had a doctor tell you that you're going to be on a pill for the rest of your life, or, you know, this is just the way it is, or this is just autoimmune symptoms. You know, anything can be labeled as autoimmune symptoms now. It's almost like a joke. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, we all have autoimmune disorder. We all have autoimmune disease. Like, I guess I just wanted to really pinpoint where my symptoms were coming from. So if you're interested in hearing more about that, my thyroid journey and antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications and birth control, there's a few episodes that I'll link in the show notes. The one that I did about depression and nostalgia, the one that's called My Thyroid Healing Journey. So I'll try to link those in the show notes for you guys. But to come back to this really clear and, you know, very dominant download and thought that when I was in Florida on my birthday, I was like, I took for granted living in Miami and the sun and the warmth, and the way that I left Miami wasn't ideal. I didn't really want to leave. It's just that a really crazy situation happened, and I talk about it a lot in my podcast. In the past, 5 episodes, I've definitely talked about it, but I'm sure you guys are sick of hearing me repeat myself, so I won't. But everything happens for a reason, and I moved to Philly, and it felt right, and I went with my gut, and I'm glad that I did. And now that I went to Florida for my birthday, and I felt these extremely, extremely bright downloads about my health, it's just nice to have that perspective and that appreciation. And, you know, it's just made me realize how important health is, because health is the most legitimate form of wealth. I mean, you could have all the money in the world, but if you're waking up in the morning and you hate your life, or you have chronic inflammation, or, you know, there's something wrong with your digestion or something, that is just not a way to live. And without optimal health, it's impossible for us to be our best selves. And I really have been feeling like I've disconnected from a highest self, and from my highest self at times, and anger and irritability come through, and I'm like, yo, I don't know where this is coming from, but like it obviously means that the energy around me, or the things that I'm dispersing my energy in, and my current life situation isn't working that great. So, you know, it's impossible for us to up level and continue to thrive if we're constantly, you know, battling or suffering chronic illness or fighting symptoms day in and day out. And it just got to a point where I felt when I was in Miami too, that every day was just a battle to get through the symptoms, you know, a battle to get through the rituals and the routines and the movement. And by the end of the day, I'll feel better. And I don't like that feeling. You know, I don't necessarily like waking up in the morning and saying, all right, like I got to get through this day. Like I know tonight I'll probably feel better, but I just got to get through these symptoms and this inflammation and this feeling of not feeling light and comfortable in my body. So it's just that constant battle, which is exhausting physically and emotionally. And I'm sure if any of you guys suffer with chronic illness or autoimmune, you know what I'm talking about. Like every day is kind of just a big struggle to feel comfortable and to get through those really shitty symptoms that we can get hit with. So, you know, if every day it feels like my body is attacking itself, I'm in the middle of my brain and my body, and then I'm in the middle of those two things, just trying to get through the discomfort, the swelling, the inflammation. And, you know, it just hit me like that's not living. That's if I just feel like I'm in a constant teeter-tottering battle with my brain and my body to try to, you know, equal it out and calibrate it out and just get through those crazy symptoms, that's not living. And more than ever, I don't know if it's just because I'm like pretty much balls deep in my Saturn return, I've been feeling a true calling to heal and to slow down and to really like acknowledge the fact that I've put myself in a burnout mode again. An entire year of fight or flight has taken a toll on my body, and now I'm going to be tested for a variety of diseases and things that I hope I don't have, but I have almost every symptom for, you know. And like the more research and the more podcasts I listen to, I think sometimes it can feed my hypochondriac mentality. But I do have to be careful because diabetes runs in my family. My mom has some serious health issues, and I don't want to already program myself to say, oh, I'm going to get these things. No. And you know, what's more important? Is getting healthy more important, or is burning myself out and working and overworking myself and living in an apartment that's more expensive than it should be? Like, we have to ask ourselves if our current reality is doing us good. And what I realize is that, you know, I need some help here. Like, I haven't relied on my parents since I was 17 years old. I've been moving and on my own since I was 17 years old. And, you know, I need to go to specialist doctors and keep up with it. And sometimes, like, I just am not held accountable, and I can't do it all on my own. And these are the types of dark realizations that I've been coming to terms with. You know, it's not easy living in a kind of a new city that I moved here, you know, 7 months ago, whatever. It's freezing. It's my first winter that I've endured in, like, you know, over 12 years without a car, you know. not working that much, it's really challenging. So if any of you are in the same kind of position, like you're not working a lot, you have bills, like you're burnt out energetically, like you're not alone. There's so many of us going through this, and sometimes we need accountability. We need our friends, we need our family. Like, enough is enough. Like, this society is so overwhelmed and obsessed with like doing everything on our own and hyper productivity, and it's just insane. And I actually did an episode all about hyper productivity. It's probably in the first like 20 episodes, all about hyper productivity and how the society really pressures us to produce content, and you're not working hard enough. If you don't have 3 jobs or 3 forms of income, then what are you doing? And it's like, it's fucking insane. And these society expectations can be draining as well. And it's just been a full circle kind of reflection to see where I'm at physically in my health right now. So like, wherever you're at in your health, like, can you think back, 6 years? Hopefully you're in a better spot right now. Hopefully your health isn't doing worse than it was 6 years ago. Personally for me in college and even after college, it was just one never-ending war with myself and my body and trying to make sense of it all, because it was years of, taking pills and drinking, and that kills your gut health. And it's made me really question, like, how important is my physical health? It's pretty fucking important, because I think that if my physical health was doing better, then maybe this healing of trauma and rewiring the brain and reestablishing new ideas and like separating myself from all the myths and the programming and the conditioning from my childhood, it would probably be a lot easier if my body was more in alignment. And it's a little daunting to think back years ago when maybe your health wasn't doing so great. But then that gives you perspective, and then that gives you gratitude. Like, oh man, thank God I'm not there again, because, oh man, that sucked. Like, that really sucked. And then you have then you can come back to this moment and say, oh, okay, well, at least I'm not that bad. Because in college, you guys, I don't even know how I was functioning. I was on antidepressants. I was abusing benzos. I was smoking weed, doing every drug imaginable. I was drinking all the time. I was the heaviest I've ever been in my life, and I was not happy about it. I was depressed. I had a lot of anger still. Even though, I had a lot of really good friends and I was in art school and having fun, I don't really look back at that time of my life as fun at all. And maybe the Gab right after art school would have labeled art school as fun, a fun time. But now that I'm, I've been well out of art school, now that I'm looking back at it, it doesn't look like a good time at all. It looks like a messy, really dysfunctional period of time. And if that girl were to come into my realm right now, I would be disgusted. Like, I wouldn't want to be her friend. I wouldn't want to be Gab's friend in art school. Abusing drugs and alcohol and, just a mess. And I was on birth control, and I really don't think that my mind was, I feel like I was a zombie, to be honest. So now, as I'm recording this podcast here right now in this moment, I am like, thank God I'm I'm off those medications, I'm clean, I'm sober, it could be so much worse is what I'm saying. And we have to celebrate those small victories, and we have to understand like the huge progress that we've made with our physical health. But as we keep awakening and we keep opening our eyes to what's going on, we will realize that like, okay, maybe we've reached a plateau in our physical healing, or maybe we're in a rut, we're stuck. And I can definitely say I'm in a rut. I feel like there's this level that I just can't reach. I can't get past this level, just like a video game, like there's that one level where you're just like, oh, if I could just get past this level, then I can save the game and I can save all my progress, and now I'm over that hump, that one level. That's where I feel like I'm at right now, and I just need to get past this little layer of intensity. And I've been asking myself, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Why am I living a life that is full of health issues? And I know that I need to retreat and get my health under control in order to up level. And, what's the point of hustling and working and trying to up level every area in my life if I'm not willing to take time to really tackle these health issues? And sometimes it's going to require taking a few steps back in order to create like a catapult, like really strong, like, you're being shot 50 steps forward. Sometimes it takes taking a couple steps back. So, because once we can get a grip of the physical well-being, the biology of our physical body, it'll be a lot easier to bounce back into emotional healing and trauma healing and all that. So, before, like years ago, when I first moved to Miami, and I was like getting into the whole health and wellness scene, and I was just scraping the surface. But I would say, oh yeah, I'll figure this out eventually. I'll eventually get off my thyroid medications, or I'll eventually fix my eating habits, or I'll eventually like go to a special doctor, a holistic doctor. And it just made me realize like how many years have I been telling myself like it'll all work out and that's all great, but like I wasn't willing to do the work, and I wasn't ready to like take the blindfold off and really acknowledge the things that needed to change. And with health, it's now or never. It's right now that we need to take the wheel and reclaim our health, because physical health is standing in the way of us reaching new potential in every other area of our life. Our relationships, our jobs. We'll have more energy to put out new projects and new ideas. And once the physical health is calibrated and aligned and healed and working and thriving better, then everything else will fall into place. I'm sure that if my physical health was like really dialed in and tapped in and thriving, then I would be able to date again. Because right now I have no desire to date, and that's fine. Like I have friends who have told me they were celibate for 2 years and it was the best 2 years of their life, and I'm in a phase like that right now where I'm not dating, I'm not putting my energy out there, I'm not having sex, because I am in the midst of healing from so many toxic and narcissistic relationships that I've had with men that I'm just not ready to open up yet. But I know that once I am ready, that me acknowledging that and me going out of my comfort zone and going to holistic healers or Reiki therapists and all that, that's there when I'm ready. And the physical health comes first, in my opinion, right now at least. So, hustle and work and entrepreneurship and the grind, none of that means shit if you're doing it while you're feeling like absolute crap or miserable. And making money and living out our passions doesn't feel nearly as fulfilling as it should when we are fighting a physical or a mental health battle that seems like it has no end. We have to weigh our options, like, what came first, the chicken or the egg, But the small victories that don't even feel like proud moments when you feel like shit, that sucks. Like if we're so wrapped up into feeling like shit that we can't acknowledge the small victories and we can't acknowledge the progress, then we're not in a good place. And in order to celebrate our lives and our successes and our small victories, we have to feel our best. And if we're constantly in that never-ending battle with chronic illness or debilitating symptoms that are controlling us and making us isolate and making us just really be by ourselves and kind of retreat into these depressive and low energetic vibes, like, it makes it really hard to enjoy any type of work that we do, even if it's in alignment, even if it's in these passions, like we're hearing the word passion be thrown out everywhere, and that's great. You can be living your passion. You can be living 100% in alignment and in your truth and in your passion and still feel like absolute shit because your body is unwell. And when the body is unwell, it's hard to calibrate the mind. And there's some people who are on autopilot and they eat fast food and they barely move their body and they're barely breathing deep and they're still living, right? They're still living and they're going through the motions, but they're like zombies and they're not enjoying life. They're just living life because they're going through the motions on autopilot. And I don't want to be like that anymore. And even if I'm living my passions and I'm teaching yoga and I have the podcast going and, I got my side gigs going or whatever, if I'm not thriving physically and emotionally, but more so my physical health is not doing well, then what the fuck is the point of it all? You know what I mean? Like, this body is our home. No matter where we live in the world, no matter what city we live in, no matter what kind of house we live in, it's our body that we have to live with. It's with us until the end of our life. So if we are not taking care of our temple, then don't you think that life's just gonna suck, endlessly? I mean, this is like just some shit that's going on in my head, and if I'm rambling, I'm sorry. But I feel like I'm not the only one here thinking this. This is a collective energy. I'm part of the collective. You're part of the collective. This isn't coming from nowhere, And I will say that habits, like changing our habits and reclaiming our power, that's really fucking hard. And even though I'm vegan and I eat healthy and this and that, I lost myself for a little bit and I started eating things that are not good for autoimmune disease. And I started allowing myself to eat too much sugar. And, I was binging on fruit. Like, I literally go through these phases where I will binge on fruit. And I'm talking like an excessive amount of fruit, and it's because my body's craving sugar, and I binge on fruit. But what that does to the physical body is it spikes glucose levels. You can get insulin resistant from eating too much sugar, especially when you're eating keto or paleo or low carb or whatever. It can shock the body, especially for people with thyroid conditions like me. I have to be very careful. And it got to the point, guys, I'm not even kidding. I had a couple of days in Miami where I just hung out by myself and like was in so much pain because when your glucose levels rise really high, your body can go into shock. And I get full-blown body flare-ups when I have too much sugar or gluten or anything like that. And I got leg lymphedema, which is when your legs swell up, your feet, your ankles, your fingers. And the more research that I was doing and the more podcasts I was listening to, when I was in Florida for my birthday, I listened to this 3-hour podcast about diabetes and insulin resistance and glucose levels. It's on the Peter Attia, the Drive. It's called the Drive podcast. It's so fucking good. It was honestly one of the most informative podcasts I've ever heard in my life. And if you're into all that kind of stuff about health, it's really good. It's one of those podcasts that you'll geek out on and like really nerd out on because there's so much information. But the reason why I was so interested in it is because diabetes runs in my family. And my grandfather died of diabetes conditions and complications when he was 63. So he was really young. And both of my aunts, so his sisters, they both died of health complications, and they were all very, very unhealthy. And I remember being kind of traumatized from that growing up. I'm not sure if I spoke about this in my previous podcast, but the way that we see our elders in our lives, whether they're sick or they're well or they go through different types of physical health battles, that can be very traumatizing. And I grew up around a lot of unhealthy individuals, and I think that might be why I feel this strong urge to be in this realm of biohacking and wellness and healing and, you know, physically like getting into a new realm of health. And it's because I don't want to associate myself with that. And my dad's super healthy, my sister's super healthy, everyone else that's left is pretty healthy. But I think it's because we were all very traumatized with what happened to my grandfather and his two sisters. Seeing people die like that it can program a program of fear. And I know that I've been living out of that program, out of fear for a while, ever since my grandfather died when I was like 11 years old. So that's just some food for thought, you know. There's going to be diseases that run in your family, like whatever, diabetes, cancer, thyroid, mental illness. But we actually do have the control to change our epigenetics, and we can change by just living a lifestyle of health and wellness and not allowing ourselves to label ourselves and put us in that box of fear with that labeled disease. Like we have the power to heal. And this all just really flowed through me during my birthday, 12/12, the portal, man, like the health portal. I feel like that's what it is. It's the health portal. But I feel like all these messages from my highest self, they're screaming at me now. And I've heard in a lot of podcasts, you know, the body will gently tap on your shoulder when there's an issue, and then, you know, it'll start to rock your shoulder back and forth, and then it'll start to scream and shake you. And that's where I feel like I'm at. And there's this layer that I need to get through. And, you know, a lot of different factors have to do with our health right now. It could be things that we did years ago, like a decade ago, that's still working its way out of our body. You know, that's why we hear and we see so many people talk about sexual abuse, or, you know, a family member abusing them when they were 4 years old, and then they didn't remember it, or they didn't really put two and two together, or it all came up to the surface when they're like 30 years old. I was just listening to a podcast, and this writer was saying that same exact story. You know, repressed emotions and memories, they get locked into the body, and that's why when people practice yoga, they'll have these emotional breakthroughs where they cry and they feel their throat chakra opening, they feel their solar plexus opening, they have kundalini awakenings. It's because there is energetic binds that are finally being released in the body, and that has to do with our emotional state. So, you know, we have to have compassion towards ourselves. We have to forgive ourselves, just like I have to forgive myself with the drugs, the alcohol, the benzos, killing my adrenals in art school, and eating unhealthy, and having sex with men who like kind of like ingrained a toxic, narcissistic, gross energy within me. And I know that men don't really think this way, but every person that we sleep with, whether you're a man, a woman, whatever your gender is, you let the energy of that other person that is going inside of your body, you let that energy into you. And if you're an empath, that energy can linger for a long time, and that energy can transfer and transmute into PTSD and trauma. So that's where I'm at, and I think we can all relate that we've all had a sexual experience that wasn't the best, and maybe that sexual experience has tainted you, or in some way it's kind of left an imprint, like, oh man, that sucked, that was a traumatic event. I feel like there's more stories like that come from women, but I know that there's stories like that from men as well. And that's something that I want to work through, the sexual trauma that I've been through. But I've noticed that if my health isn't thriving, then it's hard for me to get to that state of mind where I'm ready to do the shadow work and ready to get a therapist and ready to go to that Reiki session. Because first things first, you got to figure out your physical stuff, blood work, tests, get your physical stuff out of the way, because if you're a hypochondriac like me, then that stuff's on your mind. And once that can be put away, once those worries can be put away, then you can start to really dig deep into the emotional trauma stuff. So, yeah, I love you guys. And I know that it can be so challenging to look at our lives from a larger lens and be honest and truthful with ourselves, like what's working and what's not. Do I need to take the Band-Aid off? Do I need to jump into the unknown? Do I need to make a leap of faith? Do I need change in my life? What do I need? Who can I ask for help? Who can I lean on? What are our outlets of calling for help to the universe or God or source or your spirit guides or your deceased grandmother or grandfather? Like, what is it that's going to help you get to that level of knowing the next step, And the physical health, that's a huge part of it. It really is. So let's start healing from the ground up. Health is wealth. Reclaim your needs, root chakra, and let's figure this shit out. 2020. Thank you guys so much for tuning into that episode of The Vibe Within. I hope it helped you. I hope that it can be a catalyst for you to kind of look at your life in a different lens, from a larger lens. If you would like to support the podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review. Every time somebody rates and reviews the podcast, it really helps the pod just thrive and rise to the surface. This is a one-woman show. I do everything from record to edit to add the music to try and find paid sponsors. It's just a way of life, and it's been an amazing year. I want to thank you guys so much for just spending time and energy with me on each podcast. I feel like I'm hanging out with you guys. I feel like, it's a community, and I really enjoy receiving the DMs and the emails, and send me more voice messages or voice audio messages on Instagram. I think that's a really cool way to connect as well. There's other ways just to support the podcast. If you are interested, just check out the show notes. If this episode resonated with you, just share it with a friend, a family member, screenshot, tag me on Instagram, Gypsy Love Flow, and be sure to follow me on Instagram, because I'm always sharing, these deep ideas, and I do CBD giveaways about once every month. So definitely come through and connect on the gram. Who doesn't like free CBD? Come on. And if you guys are looking for CBD products, all of the discount codes are in the show notes. All my favorite companies, they're all tagged. So that's a great way to support the podcast as well, by using one of my discount codes. Anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Until next time, see ya.
Are you still with him?